Well, this week, Israel finally had enough of the terrorist strikes against their civilian population, and they launched a ground campaign into Gaza, the hellhole of Hamas. Twice, Hamas violated a ceasefire agreement and continued to launch rockets over 80% of the Israeli population. The best we got from the White House was a ridiculous admonition for both sides to restrain themselves. Now, if 225 million Americans, which would be about 80% of our population, were having rockets explode over our heads, do you think we'd appreciate someone telling us to restrain ourselves? Hamas is a terrorist organization. It's not a legitimate government. Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu bluntly explained the difference between the so-called two sides.
We're using missile defense to protect our civilians, and they're using their civilians to protect their missiles. That's basically the difference. They're embedding these rockets that they're firing wholesale into our cities, terrorist rocketing, trying to kill as many as they can.
Well, it's indeed a tragedy that several hundred residents of Gaza have been killed. It's an even greater tragedy that the savages who operate Hamas use innocent people as human shields to protect their weapons. None of those Palestinians would have died if Hamas didn't insist on acting like vicious, mad dogs intent on making mayhem. And please, don't buy the lie that if Israel would just give up some more land, it'd be okay. Israel lives on 1/6 of 1% of the amount of land possessed by Arabs and Muslims. There are 300 million Middle Eastern Muslims and Arabs to only 5.5 million Israeli Jews. The idiotic proposal to give away more Israeli land is to assume that if you let the mad dog a little closer to your face, the less likely he is to bite. Well, Israel has a legitimate right to the land and a legitimate right to defend itself. It's the only Middle Eastern country that gives women full rights. It's the only one which outlaws honor killings of women. It's built 6 universities, 20 community colleges, and 166 clinics for Palestinians just between 1979 and 2006. Israel accommodates 15 different religions. Let me ask this: how many Christians, Hindus, or Buddhists are free to worship in Pakistan, Iran, or Iraq, Saudi Arabia, or Gaza? Hamas is a puppet of Iran, and the barrage of rockets fired into Israel is just the pregame for the real target, the United States. If we pussyfoot around now and have nothing better to offer than telling everybody to just get along, we will rue the day when the Iranian terrorists turn loose in the United States, and we'll wonder why we never bothered to control our borders or our brains. A president showing leadership would announce that since Hamas is firing rockets at Tel Aviv, we'll just move our embassy to Jerusalem, the capital of Israel, where it'll be safer. We'd urge an escalation of building Jewish neighborhoods in Judea and Samaria so that those families living amidst their Arab neighbors would live in a neighborhood less likely to be targeted. And we'd announce that there wouldn't be another dime of U.S. taxpayer money going to the Palestinian Authority until they publicly renounce and separate from Hamas and until they recognized Israel's right to a safe and secure homeland. Now, look, I don't say these things because I'm a Jew, because I'm not a Jew. I believe there's a difference, however, between good and evil, and I would never tell good to restrain itself, nor would I ever treat evil as if it were the same as good. I've spoken to friends in Israel every day over the past 12 days of the attacks. I admire their patience and their hesitation to escalate their defense of their children that could, in fact, result in the death of someone else's. But enough is enough, and America shouldn't keep the world guessing as to who it will stand with: the terrorist organization Hamas or an elected democracy, Israel.